Welcome to the Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life podcast. I'm your host, Nadia Delacruz, founder of the Dyer Wisdom community on Facebook. And if you're on Instagram, I also just launched a new account at Dyer Wisdom. You can find all my social media links and more details about this podcast at nadiadelacruz.com. Now, my guest today is an artist, musician, and singer-songwriter. She recently shared a video of one of her new songs in the Facebook group, and that was inspired by this quote from Dr. Wayne Dyer: "Loving people live in a loving world. Hostile people live in a hostile world. Same world." And her song was so beautiful and so inspiring that I invited her to come on the podcast, and I want to share it with you here. So we're going to do something a little bit differently, and I'm going to play her song for you, and then you'll get to meet her. This song is titled "You Get to Choose" by Sarah Dion Brooks.
Some hold on to bitterness and hate. Others learn to let go. While some choose to live in their pain, others use their pain to grow. Some act out in anger, others live to be kind. How will we understand each other if we choose to stay blind? 'Cause we live in the same world, just looked at from a different point of view. There is something good or something bad, depending on what lens you're looking through. How does it make you feel when you focus on the things that you do? If you only see the bad, step outside yourself and see it from a different point of view. It's up to you. You get to choose the kind of world that you see. It's up to you. You get to choose the kind of person you'll be. You get to choose. You make a difference every day. What kind of difference do you make? It matters what you do and you say, whether you give or do you take. It's not about what happens, it matters how you respond. Is it out of fear or is it out of love that you see inside yourself and beyond? 'Cause we live in the same world, just looked at from a different point of view. There is something good or something bad, depending on what lens you're looking through. How does it make you feel when you focus on the things that you do? If you only see the bad, step outside yourself and see it from a different point of view. It's up to you. You get to choose the kind of world that you see. It's up to you. You get to choose the kind of person you'll be. You get to choose. You get to choose. If you want the world to change, you gotta change the way you see it. If you want to see the good, then you gotta go out there and be it. Be the good, share the love, be the change, rise above. There is hope, hope for peace and hope for love. It's up to you. get to choose the kind of world that you see. It's up to you. You get to choose the kind of person you'll be. You get to choose.
Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
So I review all the posts that come onto the Wayne Dyer Wisdom community, and so I watched your video before anybody else got to see it in the group, and I was just like, wow, this is so incredible. Now there's a lot of, I want to say, kind of tribute work to Dr. Wayne Dyer, but there was so much heart and talent into what you put out there that I was like, I gotta ask her if she can come on. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for asking.
So, you actually wrote in that post, I wrote this song last month and have really been wanting to share it. I was inspired by the Wayne Dyer quote that says, loving people live in a loving world. Hostile people live in a hostile world. Same world. The words we think become our reality. What are we choosing to hold our thoughts on? What are we choosing to see? This song is a reminder that it is a choice. So how did this song come to you? Because I feel like inspiration kind of comes as a download sometimes. What inspired you to write this song?
I write music, and sometimes inspiration comes in different forms. Sometimes it's in a dream, or sometimes it's just sitting at the piano. Sometimes it's pouring out pain. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that I've been finding inspiration. And this song was written, I think, in November, December time period, and just the unrest of everything that's been happening. And I felt sad and heaviness in my heart. And I remember sitting at the piano and I was playing around with some chords, and that Wayne Dyer quote has stuck with me for years, since the first time I ever saw it. And I thought, wow, in just those few words, it's up to me. Like, I could look at the world anyway, and that's what I'm going to see. And so that's really what it poured out from, was thinking on the words that have really impacted me the most. And that was one of the quotes that did. So I just sat at the piano, and that's what happened. It came pretty quickly. That song came pretty quickly. And you, like you said, it was kind of like a download. Sometimes I'm pretty excited about how quickly I'm inspired. And sometimes when I'm trying too hard, I'm like, oh, no, it's not right now. It's not right now. So
The timing's got to be right. Yeah, there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. So also for me in creative work, sometimes I find, I'm not a musician, but I do other creative things. Sometimes I find that, like, I'll get this amazing idea and there's all this energy behind it and I'm really excited and I know this is something I want to bring out into the world, and I assume it's going to be like weeks, and sometimes it's years before it actually kind of fully comes out. But I feel like the timing is always just right.
it is. That actually just happened to me last week, or maybe it's been 2 weeks now. Time is kind of flowing right now into each other. But for the last 2 years, I've been wanting to write a song called The Journey. And I knew what it was going to be about. It was going to be about how we really need to be in the moment and live today and be grateful for everything around us. But I just couldn't, it wouldn't come for 2 years. And then the other day, once again, playing with chords, and I'm like, okay. And I just shut my eyes. I'm like, what do I need to say? What is the message that needs to be said? And all of a sudden this one just flew. And I was like, it's the journey. It's the journey. It's time. It's time. It took me 2 years for that one to come. So I totally agree with you. I love that inspiration works that way.
Yeah, we really can't force it, unfortunately. No. I think everybody from, Shakespeare and, all the greats that we can think of, like, they had those too. Like, sometimes you're inspired, sometimes you're not. You can't really force it. Do you meditate?
I do.
I feel like a lot can come through when you sit in that receptive space. I know that's something that Dr. Wayne Dyer did. In fact, a lot of his writing he would do in the very early morning hours. He'd go to his sacred writing space, and he had, pictures of people who inspired him, and he would sit and he would let it come. But if it wasn't coming, right, you sit in meditation, and that fosters that flow, that listening. And I think that's true for so many things.
Yeah.
You got to let spirit speak.
Yes. And meditation is somewhat of a new thing. I've only been doing it for the last 2.5 years, and it's been a journey in itself, and my mind has a lot going on. And so I listened to a lot of guided meditations and have just recently really been trusting just breathing and allowing, and that's newer for me. So I'm really excited about that journey. I know it's been a stepping stone for me because I wasn't ready in the beginning, and so I would just spend time and time again finding these beautiful teachers on the app that I use, and I'm so grateful for those to calm down my voices in my head. So yes, I'm excited to continue that journey, but I have been inspired while meditating several times, like very inspired, and it was pretty exciting. So
do you have a favorite guided meditation?
I listen to Insight Timer is the app that I use, and my favorite is Sarah Blondin. Anything by her, pretty much. She really helped me just really through some stages of, I think one is I'd Like to Give You Permission. That's one of my favorites. And I actually wrote a song. I don't know if you want to hear the story or not, but I had a dream one night, and Hugh Jackman was in this dream, which he doesn't visit my dreams very often, but he was in my dream getting ready to go on stage, and he was getting ready to perform, and he looks out from behind the curtain and realizes that he's in a prison, and there's no prisoners there to watch him. It's just desolate, and there's rocks. And it was really frustrating for him. And he threw the curtain back, and he's like, that's it. It's time for me to come out from behind the curtain and be true to who I am. And like, I heard the words. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So all day I was kind of like, that's so cool. I know I'm going to have to write a song about this. Well, later that afternoon, I was laying there with my daughter, and she was a freshman in high school at the time. And she had a rough day at school. And I'm like, let's listen to a meditation. Let's just listen to one. So I scrolled through, and I had listened to it before, but I didn't remember, what she had said in it. And I just scrolled up to that one, that I'd like to give you permission. And I pushed play. And within the first minute and a half, she says, I'd like to give you permission to come out from hiding. I'd like to give you permission to come out from behind the curtain. And I was like, oh my gosh, twice in one day behind the curtain. And so I wrote a song, which is not released yet, but it's really interesting because I wrote that in February of last year. And the very first line of it is, we put the mask on when you walk out the door. Nobody sees me like they did before, or something like that.
Oh my
This was
gosh.
before we had to wear masks.
Yeah, nobody was wearing masks in February.
No.
In fact, I think in March they were telling us not to. It wasn't until maybe April that they were like, yeah, maybe we should start wearing masks now.
Yeah, well, the song is not about that kind of mask, and now everyone's going to think, oh, wow, we do. And honestly, I guess there's truth to that, because people can't see us how we are behind our masks. So, yeah. But I love that kind of inspiration too. That excites me.
Yeah, our understanding of the word mask has definitely changed. So I've got 2 little kids, and they have these superhero masks, right? The kind that just goes over the eyes. But we're so used to putting on our masks anytime we leave the house. And so I was talking to my kids, and I was like, here's your mask. And my daughter's like, that's not a mask. That goes over your eyes. And I'm like, oh, how quickly it changes for these little ones. And she's only 4. So, she's growing up through the pandemic, which is kind of heartbreaking. It is what it is, but it's definitely different from what I thought their childhood was going to be like. So,
definitely.
Yeah, it's been a very unusual year. I think it does foster creativity. This podcast was started last April. So that was born in the time of quarantine. I guess we kind of still are in the time of quarantine. But how has what we've been going through as a world, or what you've been going through individually, impacted your music?
I think things have shifted when, one, I'm not performing live as often. I live in Oregon, and they've clamped down pretty hard. And in the summertime it was open, and I was able to sing at a lot of wineries and, some local places, but the festivals and fairs were shut down. So things have changed in that sense. So when the quarantine first started, I just want to lift people. I want to spread light. That's just what I want to do. I want to help people. And so I started doing, on my Sarah Dion Brooks Facebook page, I started doing live videos, and I would get on there every day and do a song or two. And I did it almost every day for about 80 days, almost.
Wow.
And it was so much fun. It was such a great practice because all of a sudden I'm being challenged. I would take requests, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm doing Stairway to Heaven with this jazzier style. Because I mean, it's me and the piano, and I'm a vocalist first, and I play piano to accompany myself. And that's a practice in itself. And I love the piano. And so it's been really fun taking songs like Stairway to Heaven or some Bon Jovi or other Metallica songs or whatever, and just taking them and twisting them to make them mine. Like Sweet Child of Mine, that was one of my favorite ones to sing.
That's a good
and
one.
So all of a sudden, when the wineries did open again, and I was playing, the 3 hours, I was like, man, I have so much music. Which ones do I choose now? Because there's so much. And sometimes I shy away from singing original music because I just want to entertain people, and I know I'm not always being watched for a concert. And interestingly enough, last January 11th, I had a concert at a little theater here in our town, and it was sold out, and it was all original music, and I got to share the stories behind each song. And it was my favorite performance I've ever been able to do because people were listening, and I got to share the stories behind the songs and open up a part of me. And so it's made me brave a little bit more of performing my music more regularly. So I don't know if that really answered your question.
Oh, no, it's fascinating to think about the journey. Like you talk about January, and I think about what I was doing in January and February, and it's like, it's so ominous kind of, because it's like the things that we were doing and the things that I was doing ended up being perfect for what was to come. It kind of set me up, and I was able to do some things I couldn't have done later on, but we didn't see it coming. But that performance, it sounds like you had an opportunity to put so much of yourself out there in a way that people could really receive and experience and be receptive to. So I hope that you've been able to carry that through all this time of not being able to perform live. Are you still not able to perform live? I don't think we're having any opportunities for that.
There's ways. I have a couple gigs this next month, but they're far away from people, and it's masks required and things like that. So, I mean, I do have a few coming, and there's, the wineries and things, some of them are still open, but they have to have outdoor seating. Nobody can be indoors, and it's winter. So it's a little cold, but people are making it happen. And so there is some of that, but I really look at everything as an opportunity. If something happens that shifts, like I had a lot of shows cancel last year. When that happened, I said, okay, well, what else can I do? This is opening up time for me to do something else. And so in that time in 2020, I got my NLP certification and became a transformational and healing coach and started working with clients over Zoom. And it has been this beautiful journey. So I started the Inner Garden Center for the Mind, Body, and Soul as another channel to help people heal, because I know how much, and NLP totally speaks to my heart because it's all about programming and reprogramming your mind and your thought process, which is all about Wayne Dyer, right? Like that's
so what does NLP stand for?
It stands for Neuro-Linguistic programming.
Okay.
And my interpretation of that is that we are all, as we are raised as children, we start to process life. We see life and make our own assumptions of what everything means. We're trying to figure out what life is. And in doing so, these thoughts are put into our head. Now that may be something that adults said, teachers said, parents said, or that might have just been our little brains figuring things out. Well, that planted these beliefs in our mind, and that has carried on throughout our life. And so much of how we've responded to life is based on those belief systems. And so what we do with the coaching program and neuralistic programming is going in there and really listening and becoming mindful of the things that you're telling yourself and grabbing a hold of them and realizing, that's a little low energy. How can I make this different? Like, I don't want to be fat. Well, what do you want? Well, I want to be in shape and be healthy. So when you say, I want to be healthy and in shape, that really makes you feel good. Where if you're complaining and saying, and Wayne Dyer always talks about this stuff. So it's just right in alignment with everything that he had taught. But I just love it. I love how empowered I've felt. I love how much it's helped the clients that I have helped so far, of just really being able to own their life and make their truth what they want, not what they thought, like the song Enough, for example, that I wrote is all about, I was feeling like I wasn't enough. And why was I feeling like I'm not enough? There's some reason in my head. Oh, it's because, I think other people are better than me, or they don't care. What does it matter? There's a voice that every once in a while comes up and that says, who the freak do you think you are? Who cares?
Yeah.
And that comes up, and it's just like, I've just got to stop and say, well, I'm doing this for me. This is my journey. This is my truth. And it'll touch someone out there. Even if I never know about it, it will touch somebody and hopefully start spreading them or sending them to the direction of their life that they need for healing. And I may never know them, and I may never meet them. Just like I never met Wayne Dyer in this life. So, but he's touched my life, and other amazing authors have touched my life. So yeah, it's been a really beautiful journey. And so I've just taken advantage. And if a client cancels, I'm like, great, I'll work on a song. Or I write meditations as well. And so I have so many beautiful projects that all kind of have to do with the same thing. But the music is my passion. The music is something I've been involved with my whole life. I've been singing since I was a kid, performing since 2010. But
I think one of the best survival skills, especially it's being tested now, is the ability to constantly reinvent ourselves, right?
Yes.
That let's say your job becomes obsolete, not yours specifically, but like let's say you're working in a factory and that factory job is now replaced by something else. Well, do you just fall down and that's it and I give up? Or do you go, okay, well, what skills do I have that I could use in another way? Or what need is there that I can fulfill? Or what's calling at my heart? So
absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Wayne Dyer, that's like Wayne Dyer 101 saying, focus on what you want, not what you don't want, that your thoughts are the currency for your life, that what you focus on expands. So,
yes.
And it's really just sort of flipping the script a little bit. Like you could say, I don't want to be judged, or you could say I want to feel more love in my life, right? Those are like two sides of the same thing. And then that voice you talk about, Wayne would describe that as the voice of the ego that tells us you are what you have, you are what you do, you are what other people think of you. I think it's that critic, and we all have it. I'd like to think that we could just remove it at some point. But it sounds like the best we can do with that is just to kind of not pay so much attention to it, not give it so much weight in our lives. Like, yeah, I hear you. I'm going to do this anyway. I'm going to do it anyway because I believe in my worth.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things through NLP is honoring the emotions as well. Is like, I'm feeling really anxious right now. And rather than saying I am anxious, just say I feel anxious, because it's not what I am. It's not who I am. It's what I'm feeling right now. And I really believe that the emotions are trying to tell us something. And so when I can get out of that moment, like I'll go meditate or I'll sit down and I'll try to stay away from the chocolate, because I used to just go to the chocolate when I felt anxious.
I think chocolate's a valid therapy. Let's not knock chocolate.
It might have been Skittles or something, but either way, it was sugar, which I know is not good for me. But I've really been trying to really listen and figure out what it is that what I'm feeling, because especially the more I help clients, I'm reading this stuff all the time because I'm going through it with them. And so I'm able to practice it a lot more, which is really, really nice. And so I had read in a book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic, and a couple of years ago.
I've got
it's
that
such a
one
good
too,
one.
yeah.
And she was talking about, and I honestly don't remember what emotion she was talking about. I thought it was fear, but she was saying, like pretending like you're driving in the car, you can hear it talk, and it can tell you this, it's trying to protect you, but just say, hey, I got it under control. I'm the one driving right now.
We got this. It's all right.
But I do believe our emotions are here to teach us. And if we can just learn that, then we can learn from them, and then we'll be able to process them a lot faster rather than let them take over. I just got off a Tony Robbins conference. And they were talking about mastering your emotions, and becoming the master of your emotions is such a powerful thing rather than letting them control you. So I just love all of these teachers. These spiritual teachers just make me so happy. They keep feeding me the same things in just a different way. So I love it.
Yeah, I totally geek out on that stuff too. I like everything from Hay House pretty much, and so many others really. But I just love thinking about those things, and like, how does the mind work, and what power do we have in our lives, and what's our sense of purpose? What's our sense of meaning? What brings us fulfillment, and why are we here? And spirituality for me answers a lot of those questions. So it's been a passion of mine. Wayne Dyer is the one who opened that door for me. I discovered him as a teenager. And so that I was a very young age to be introduced to those topics, and I carried it with me for the rest of my adult life. So yeah, I mean, I've been He was teaching since before I was around, but like for my whole life, I've been following what he was putting out there, and that's been really, really helpful for me. So this coaching that you're doing for NLP, can you tell me more about what kind of services you have and where people can sign up for that?
Yes. So I have a Facebook page called the Inner Garden Center, and I also have a website called the Inner Center, or innergardencenter.com. I call it the inner garden because we are working on pulling out the weeds of negativity and thinking and planting seeds of love and peace and calm within us. And so we're really trying to cultivate our own inner garden. And so I share a lot of positive quotes on Facebook, things that have spoken to me. What it is a 14-week coaching program. And every week we have a different session that kind of goes along the line of planting a garden, So like the first week, anyway, I have 14 different subjects. I don't have the book right in front of me. I created that. I created the whole program last year. So that was another one of the things I did. And it was just so beautiful. And I would meditate and I would come up with that. But,
you've been busy.
I have been, but I love it. I love my life. I really do. I mean, I have moments, but I think one of the things I'm realizing is that another one of my favorite quotes is, it's not about what happens to you. It's how you respond that matters. And so I've really been practicing responding. So anyway, each week I give the clients another section to work on. And so they're supposed to work on that section. And then, I'll listen to what they say. I write down a lot of the stuff that I hear them say, and then I bring it up to their attention. And I want them to become more mindful of the words that they're saying every day. And as soon as they can start becoming aware, they start becoming aware of themselves when they're at home, and they're like, oh my gosh, I just thought that. And then I'm like, well, how did it make you feel to think that? And so, it's a 14-week program. And, so if anyone's interested in that, they can find me on Facebook or on my website, and they can email me there.
So that was theinnergardencenter.com?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah. That sounds like something that Wayne would love. He was obviously in counseling psychology for a long time. That's what he got his doctorate in. So yeah, he started out really coaching people like that about noticing their thoughts and sort of empowering themselves, that you're not a victim to circumstances. You're not a victim to your past or to what other people are doing or aren't doing. And yeah, that can be really powerful. It can be really transformative. I think about this a lot. They say we have 60,000 thoughts every day. The problem is we have the same 60,000 thoughts every day. Right. And isn't there's something so sad about that? That like, oh, it's true. And a lot of it is this critical self-talk that just sort of pops up. But if we can kind of slow down and become more aware of it, then we can go, oh, there that is again. Okay, I don't need to listen to that. Like, I already know I don't agree with you. So you can keep talking, but I'm going to keep doing, right? The difference between the people on the sidelines who criticize and the people who are in the arena doing. Right. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot to step up and put yourself out there. You've obviously done a lot of that. So
well, and I'd love to share a story with you, because what changed my life drastically, like I would say this was the point that changed my life. I had been married to my ex-husband for 18 years. We had 5 children together, and I was working 3 jobs, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And I was a server in the evening, and I had a rough shift. I was going through the divorce. I was in a rough place. And I remember really struggling with the energy at that night of work. And I had been talked to by my manager, and they were aware of what I was going through. And I was like, oh, red flag, they're aware. So they're going to be making sure I'm on top of my job. And
watching
I needed that job. Yes. And I remember getting in the car the next day and just feeling this low energy, and something shifted in me. And I just grabbed a hold of my steering wheel, and I'm not going to say it because I'm trying to keep this PG, but I screamed out, I'm effing amazing, like as loud as I could. I'm like, I'm effing amazing. But I didn't say effing, but it felt amazing. It felt so good. And so I screamed it over and over on my 10-minute drive to work. And after probably about 5 minutes of saying that, my energy, maybe it didn't even take 5 minutes, my energy completely shifted. And from that moment, I started saying affirmations, but I didn't realize they were affirmations. I just went through everything that I had made a mistake on the night before. Like I forgot ketchup, or if I forgot to fill somebody's water, I'm like, I always remember to fill up the water. I always remember to put in orders on time. I always remember to do this. So it's like, I was like, I was on this high, this vibration of just high. And I was like, I'm the effing queen of, whatever restaurant I was walking into. And I walk in with my head held high. And that night was the best night at work. Like my energy was just amazing. And I started doing that every night. And then after a while, I didn't need to say it anymore because I believed it. I really believed it. And I knew that instead of being this martyr of I'm going through a divorce and working 3 jobs, poor me, I was like, I get to work 3 jobs. I meet amazing people every single day. And I get the opportunity to give them an amazing dining experience. And it totally shifted my perspective of everything. And it really is true. And so, the very first time I went and saw an NLP practitioner myself because of some of the issues that I was dealing with, with a divorce and triggers that would come back up to me. And sitting in there for the very first session with her and just listening to what this was, I was like, this is something I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. I knew it in that moment. And she's a dear friend of mine to this day. And I'm just so grateful. I feel like everything really continues to happen in the order. And one of the quotes that I really, really love that I'm sure Wayne Dyer said, because I've heard it so many times, but when the student is ready, the master appears. And when the master is ready, the students appear. So I've had many beautiful masters come. So I love being ready. I love being ready.
It's so funny that you bring that up because it was maybe sometime in the last 2 weeks, very recently, I had this sort of epiphany moment. I'd heard that quote 100 times, and I always had heard it as, like there were these teachers, these masters that were walking around and they were doing their thing and like, they're ready, whatever. And then when the student's ready, all of a sudden they can see them. But this time I heard it the other way. That what if when the students are ready, the teacher comes into being, the teacher is woken up, the one who has the potential and the willingness and the opportunity to speak and to teach and to offer rises to that occasion. And I had never considered that before, but I think it really does go both ways.
Well, and I also think about in my life, if I would have listened to a movie or read a line in a book or whatever experience, I wouldn't have been ready to receive the message. Yeah. And yet now I am more ready. And it really gives me more compassion for other people too, to understand that we could be listening to the same thing and they may not get the message I'm getting and I might not get the message they're getting, but we're getting what we need to be getting. So
yeah. Sometimes I can read or listen to the same thing that I've heard 10 times before, but I'll get something different from it because of where I'm at and where my energy's at and what's been happening in my life. And you might just, like, something stands out or you just hear it a little bit different. Yeah.
Yes, totally. I agree.
So let's talk about your music. When did you first get started with that? How did you begin writing and performing music?
I have always loved performing. As a little girl, I would see my older sisters perform in choirs, and I just knew, like, I need to be on stage. It's just something that I knew I needed to do, and just started performing. I was in high school choirs, and I started out as a music major in college, and I actually went back to school as a music major when I was 27. I already had 4 children at this time, so
wow, you had your hands full.
Yeah, I did. But I was really excited, and I studied music. But I was thinking, being a vocal performance major in my mind meant jazz by the piano with just the sultry stuff. And that's not what it means. It means classical opera. So it was very eye-opening, very humbling. I have never been so humbled, but it was such an amazing experience. Singing opera in front of amazing opera students and professors, and very humbling. I actually took a whole semester off and did a jazz improv class with one of the professors. And I love jazz. I love singing. I love interpreting jazz music. But I started writing and really started writing. I think I would dabble in it a little bit, but the very first time I wrote a song that really came from deep within was after a friend of mine attempted suicide in 2008. And I was so sad for her. And I lived in Florida at the time, and she was in Seattle, and we had gone to high school together and just lost touch. I mean, I got married when I was 19 and I had 5 children by the time I was 29. So like I was busy with a lot.
I only have 2 and I can hardly keep up. So,
well, they're growing up. My kids are getting older now, but I remember sitting down and just wanting to connect with her so much that I really sat down at the piano and I said, what must she be feeling? And so I started writing this song, and I cried so much. Like I felt this depth from her, and I shared it with somebody and he didn't appreciate it and didn't think it was very good and just told me I was meant to perform and not write. And so I was embarrassed by this. And so I shelved it. Like I forgot about it. I didn't want to face it because I remember feeling so deeply in that moment. And years went by. And in 2015, my friend did die by suicide. And she had stayed around for a while. We had written back and forth quite a bit. And anyway, I was going to go through the boxes. We had moved back to Oregon. I was going to go to her funeral, and I opened up the very first box to look through pictures from high school to see if I could bring some to her parents for the funeral. And there was the song sitting there at the top of the box. And I thought, oh my gosh. And so I pulled it out. I hadn't even remembered it. I pulled it up to the piano and I started playing it like I'd never forgotten it. And I started crying again. And I mean, she had just died and I was just like, oh my gosh. And so I told her mom about it, but then I was embarrassed. I'm like, no, I'm not a writer. I'm a performer, you know? And even though I had dabbled with writing music in those years, I didn't have confidence in it. I just thought, you know, maybe I should let the other people write, but I knew I had things inside of me stirring and I just didn't trust it. And it took me a couple more years. And then I went ahead and finished that song and I recorded it and I put a video out, kind of like the one I did for You Get to Choose. Mm-hmm. And this song was called Find Me. So I think it's really interesting because I kept pushing it away and it said, here I am again, find me. And I posted that video and coincidentally it happened to be World Suicide Prevention Day or Awareness Day or something. And it was the biggest thing about that video is I reached out to people and I had inspiration when I was taking a shower. I was like, I need to do this. And so I reached out to all these Facebook groups and said, I'm making a music video to bring mental awareness, suicide awareness. If anyone has loved ones or friends that have died by suicide, please send me their picture. I would love to add it to this video. And so I had about 50 people send me images and that was a hard project to work on. That still makes me cry when I watch it because every one of those people died by suicide. And part of the reason I do NLP, part of the reason I want to sing this music is because I know those thoughts that we focus on really do create our reality. And that is when I realized that, it really did change my life because I thought, what do I want my reality to be like? And I really started focusing on that. And so I wrote music to heal and I just really started diving into the music. Now, as for performing, I missed music a lot. I got back into it by going to retirement communities in 2010. And I wasn't playing the piano at the time. I was just playing backing tracks to 1940s music. And I would just dress up in their dresses and I would, pretend to be this 1940s movie star type thing. And I would sing to my favorite audiences. Well, I ended up with a history major. I didn't end up, I ended up finishing online with a history degree. And I love history and I love music. And so it just really went hand in hand. And they are my favorite audiences. So I really wanted to heal through music and I would. And in the Alzheimer's units, people would remember the music and they would light up and they would dance, but they couldn't remember their names. And it was so many. I mean, I still love singing for retirement communities. I mean, my show's shifted quite a bit because I play piano now. But I really started diving into music as I needed to heal more. And it was that was healing modality. I like to joke around that it's cheaper than therapy is to sit at my piano. But
people say that about running too, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things we use to kind of help self-regulate.
It is. Well, and I'm actually a cross country and track coach too. So I do keep busy, but I love running and I love track. That was my friend who'd passed away was on my relay team in high school. So yeah, there's all these beautiful connections that keep coming back, but yeah, so that's where I really started performing a lot. And then I didn't get the guts to perform with the piano until a guitarist and I had been working together and he just said, I can't do this show. Just, you're going to have to be on your own. And I was like, oh shoot. And so I went to one of my gigs with backing tracks and the lady, everybody loved the music, but she's like, I need you on piano. So 3 months later I went back and I had 3-hour gig on piano and singing. And so it really developed that. And so yeah, that's been, I don't even know, 7 years now. And it's just more fun, and it's getting easier and it's just practice, but I love it. So yeah, it's just constantly evolving, but I do want to write music that has meaning. I don't want to just entertain, to me, words are so powerful. And honestly, the songs I write are messages I need for myself in that moment. Like I need this reminder right now. And so I sing it and I sing it and I sing it. And then it becomes one of those phrases in my mind. So I write for myself. And then I just hope, like I said earlier, that it reaches who needs it. And I really do believe that those who need it will find it. And I don't know how they'll find it, but those who need it will find it. just like I found all of these beautiful books and podcasts and the things that I find, So thank you for putting these podcasts out so people can find more wisdom,
Well, thank you. It's something that I definitely feel drawn towards, something I feel called to. It wasn't planned. I kind of stumbled on everything, one synchronicity at a time. But here we are. And I like that evolution that you're talking about, because it involves like sort of being flexible and sort of staying on that pivot point and really checking in with where you're at and where your passion is at that time. You're talking about music touching people and all this emotion that's going into it, and I like people that have dementia will remember music and respond to music, and it'll bring back memories for them that they don't have otherwise. It's like music is received in a different part of the brain. And I actually can't think of any better way to convey emotion than music. And what I love about you, as we're having this conversation, you're so emotionally open. And I know that there was a lifetime, a process of getting you to where I see you in front of me today, willing to open your heart and put it out there for everybody to see, for everybody to listen to. And what breaks my heart the most about all of this is that person who told you that you can't write, just sing other people's songs. And I think that happens a lot, whether it's music or something else. What would you say to somebody who's getting that, oh, you can't do this, you're not good enough, do something else, you're not made for this? What would you say?
Well, I'm a pretty sensitive, empathetic person, and I don't like to cause conflict. And in that moment, I buried it, and I buried the pain. Inside of me now, I understand that people who hurt people are hurting. And so again, I have more compassion for them, and I would understand that for some reason that person might have been hurting or jealous or angry. He might have thought it sucked, and that is his opinion. And I know not everybody will love my music and what I do, and I'm okay with that. I don't necessarily like reading negative reviews, but I do have to understand that. I mean, I don't like everything out there either. We have things, we're drawn to what we need. And I do know that the things that we don't like are often because of something that's hurting inside of us too. Not everything, but so I don't know if I'd want to have a conversation with this person again, but I think more of an understanding in my heart of just understanding this person's coming from a place of pain. And so here, for example, this was something I was kind of going through somewhat recently with some people that are dear to me, and criticizing me for how I'm living my life. And I feel more at peace than I've ever done before. And so I wrote this song called Shine On Anyway. And I said, in the song, it's pretty much, you can think these things about me, but I'm going to shine on anyway. And I don't need to fight with you. I'm going to shine on anyway. And so I was dampened, years ago in 2008. And I hid my music for a long time inside of me. And then when I started writing, I was trying too hard. And now I don't have to try too hard. I just allow it to flow. And if it's not flowing, it doesn't flow. But I also really want to be in tune with what I need to say and what I need to hear myself and that message within me. So like I said, the songs I write now are for myself. And so if somebody were to tell me that right now, I would probably say, I'm sorry you choose to feel that way. But I know what's inside of me, and this is something I need to say. Now, if it was somebody coming lovingly at me, I know constructive criticism is totally different. I have a friend who I run some of my songs by, and she's so great. And she's just like, okay, what if you did this? Or what if you did this? And so I know there's a totally different heart coming there. It's not out of jealousy or bitterness. It's out of pure love. And I really love the image that we don't need to compete with one another. We just don't. There's so much within each of us, and we all have this light. We just need to learn to shine it and shine it so bright. And oh my gosh, what a beautiful world that would be if everybody could just love themselves and shine that beautiful light within them. But we're so caught up in these insecurities, and we're so caught up in this fear and anxiousness and trauma that we've experienced in our lives that we can't always move forward past that. So I'm grateful that I'm continuing to work through that. I still have triggers, but I'm really grateful. And honestly, I wish I could write a book about the lessons I learned as a server, because I almost felt like I would think that everybody in the United States or the world should be a server for at least 6 months of their life, because I think that they would have more compassion towards other people, because my goodness, you deal with people that are angry and frustrated and, complaining about this. And I would walk away, take a deep breath, know that they were in pain, and just try to give them more love. Even if they didn't see it, I was just kind of try to remind myself to just love that person more. And if I couldn't get through to them, which sometimes I didn't, my very last day as a server, I remember this one table was really angry about something, and they were just complaining about everything, and it was just misunderstandings. And I'm like, really, this is my last table. This is my last table of serving. Is this going to be how it ends? And, but again, you don't know what they've gone through. You don't know what they're battling. You don't know what they just came in from. You don't know if they're dealing with loss or stress or grief. And so understanding that makes me have more compassion for people. And so, yeah.
Everybody's going through something. And
yes,
about all that criticism, Wayne Dyer said, what other people think of you is none of your business.
yes.
And it's so funny because my managers gave me the exact opposite advice, that I needed to manage, the perception. It was my job to manage other people's perception of me. And I'm looking at him going, no, that's not really it. But I think it's universal that we get rejection, right?
Yeah.
How many times anybody who succeeds gets rejected a lot. So yeah, that was some really good advice you gave there about paying attention to the other person's point of view, right? That's just their opinion. It has very little, if anything, to do with you. Don't take that as an accurate judgment of you or your work or your worth or your talent. And and then not like trying, like not overcompensating, like you have to prove that you can do this. That's
Right.
really good advice.
Well, I've definitely had moments of that. Many, many, many moments. In fact, one of my clients reminded me of that quote a couple weeks ago. That it's none of your business what people think about you. But I love reading. I read The Four Agreements a handful of years ago, and that was a really powerful book to me. And then I just finished Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. And one of the things he said is something he learned was the 3 cancers of the mind, and it's criticizing, complaining, and comparing. And so I notice when I am getting stressed, I'm like, I go through the 4 agreements, first in my mind. I don't know if you've read that book or not, but it's a great book. And then, or else I go through that one. Am I comparing? Yes. Am I criticizing? Oh. Am I complaining? Ah. So, I mean, I love these teachers. I need the reminders. I need them told many, many different ways sometimes, because some days I'm high. I'm, like I said, I just came off a Tony Robbins conference. So I'm still kind of on this high a week later.
Yeah.
I am. And then I was so looking forward to this, but there are days where I get knocked down, and I think it's important that we need to feel where we're at and feel those emotions. I really think it is, because when we bury them down, they're going to fester and they're going to come back up and will hurt other people without meaning to, but because our pain's still unsettled. So, just really allow ourselves to feel it. And then when we're ready to heal and let it go. But that does take time sometimes.
It can. It's a lot. We bump up against each other. I think relationships are so challenging and also so beneficial because of that, because you really have to work on yourself in a relationship to keep that communication going, to kind of have an understanding of who you are and maybe where the other person's coming from, and let them be free to be who they are, and that give yourself permission to be free who you are. Oh yeah, there's a lot there. I really love your music. I after I watched the video that you shared of You Get to Choose, I went and checked out some of your other songs, and my husband and I were both really just like, wow, this is so good. And I got to tell you, I hear, and I hope you take this as a compliment, because these are 2 of my favorite artists, but I hear you as like a sort of combination of Sarah Bareilles and India Ari, and they are near and dear to my heart. I know Wayne Dyer was very moved by India Ari and her song I Am Light, and she has that same kind of drive to put her passion and message into her music, that it doesn't just sound good, but that it's reaching us on a soul level. And I know you've talked about this a little bit already, but if you could sum it up, like, what inspires you the most as an artist? What is your mission or purpose as a musician? Because you do many things, right? But as a musician, what is it that drives you?
Well, I think if there's one purpose that drives me in every area of my life, it is to help people understand that the light and the truth is inside of them. Mm. And if I can do that through music, through coaching, through life transformational coaching, in any way that I possibly can. Part of the reason I love working with the youth is because I can hopefully plant some seeds of hope in their minds when I'm running with them, because running long distance is not always fun. And so, really encouraging them to do that. But yeah, to help people understand and bring value to their life, and to help them understand that the truth is inside of them and that light is inside of them. So that's...
Yeah, it's not going to be found outside. You got to go inside for that. That happiness is what you bring to life. Your light is what you're shining out, and that the outside reflects the inside, meaning you change your thoughts, you change your life, right? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That our perception is really everything. Do you have a quote of that somewhere?
No, I didn't know if my heater just turned on because I just heard something.
I just felt like that connected.
Sorry, what was the quote that you said?
When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, so much. And Wayne Dyer has inspired me so much, and I love meeting other people who have their own experiences of that. When did you first discover Dr. Wayne Dyer?
It was 2009.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, my mother-in-law, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and during those last 4 years of her life, she really dove into some beautiful spiritual teachers, and we had been raised a specific way, and so this was a little new to me to hear these beautiful
outside
teachings.
The box.
Yes, and yet it was like I was remembering something. It was kind of learning something new, but it seemed so true that I was like, I couldn't get enough of it. And I was like, and yet at the same time, I was married to my ex-husband at that time, so life shifted really quickly, and we moved again, and we moved a lot, and so we left. But I remember sitting there with her at the table, and she was reading Eckhart Tolle. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, but she was reading a lot of really beautiful spiritual masters, and I know she loved Wayne Dyer. And so watching the shift, that was the very first time I had been introduced to him. So
he was so proud of that movie. I think of everything he did. That was maybe the one that pushed him the most. He was attempting something new in his 60s, and it wasn't that easy for him to show up and perform on camera, on cue, because, it was a little bit scripted. He's not used to that. Yeah. But he used to carry those DVDs with him and hand them out to people, and the people that call in his radio show, he'd hand that out. So, every time I hear that someone watched The Shift, I'm like, oh, Wayne is so happy right now that,
it was so good. I mean, I loved, so my first, I didn't remember his name then, though. And I just remember thinking, who is this gentle man? I don't know if gentle giant is the right word or phrase for him, but there was something so beautiful, and his light really shines from him. And I think, as with any of the teachers that I come across, there's that pure love. And when I talk about that light, we all have it. We all have it inside of us. Every single one of us. I really, really believe that we are all connected by that light. And I really want to help people find it, because it's dimmed. It's dimmed through the pain. So I really want to help people realize what's within them. And I really believe that that's why Wayne Dyer was here, and Louise Hay and Jay Shetty, or any of these beautiful, amazing teachers that we have. I'm just so grateful we have them in our life right now that we can read. And I know there was great teachers of the past as well. And I'm so grateful for them, so that we can recognize that again.
We're all teachers, really. We teach one another. Sometimes it's just a comment. It could be a comment from a stranger that will open your eyes to something, or open your heart in a way that you didn't expect. I feel like we operate as messengers of spirit for one another. When we're open to that, that really comes through. So, yeah, you're definitely a teacher as well.
Thank you.
So
I'm
what's
still a student, though.
Oh, of
Always
course.
a student.
Well, student for life, and wasn't
Yes.
Wayne. I mean, wasn't Wayne. And like if even if you think about like elementary school teachers or anybody, right? They're constantly learning, and then they turn that around, and then they help others learn.
I like motherhood. That is
Oof.
one of the most humbling things ever in life. The most wonderful, but humbling. Yeah. They taught me how to be a mom.
Body, mind, and soul. It all goes into motherhood.
Yes, it does.
So what's next for you? What are you working on now?
Client appointments in the mornings and early afternoons, coaching and cross country in the afternoons. And anytime I have time, I'm recording my next album. So this song You Get to Choose is going to be on my next album. And I had a list of all the songs I thought I was going to have on there, but I keep writing new ones. And so it's just exciting. I just love it. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be inspired, great, bring it on. So I've written like 4 songs in the last month and a half to 2 months, and that's been fun. And I'm learning, like you were, saying, we learn all of these new things. So I've been learning how to record better. So, I mean, I'm recording all of this myself. So there's not supposed to be a disclaimer and sorry there, but it's not that, I'm not spending thousands and thousands of dollars yet, until the producers say, hey, you're amazing. Let's pick you up. But I don't mind. I love doing it myself. I love learning how to be creative. Now, could it be better? Absolutely. But I'm limited in what I know how to do.
Oh yeah.
But I love learning how to do it, and my voice is my instrument.
You can't wait until you know it all to start doing it. Like there's so much you can only learn from experience. Like I'm getting more into video, right? And
Yes.
For those of you who may be listening to this, there's going to be a video version of this podcast. So yeah, and I feel that too. It's like, oh well, what if somebody was here helping me and showing me how to do it? It's like, no, you just have to dive in, and then it's like, it's less about the end product and more about who you become in the process of learning and trying and experiencing those things. Yeah,
because it's the journey, not the destination. One of the I love that this just totally ties it in, because I don't remember what I was listening to, but one of the things Wayne Dyer said that really hit me was, don't die with the music still inside of you. And I know that he means that for any kind of whatever the voice is inside of you, don't die with that inside of you. And so I think it was Back to Big Magic, that book. And one of the things that really impressed me in that as well is finish the project and then let it go on to the next, go on to the next. So I'm constantly doing that. And I don't want to get so hung up in trying to make something perfect, because what is perfect, So I just really try to do the best that I can in that moment, and then let it go, and then try not to care what the reviews are. Just let it go, and those who need it will find it.
Detach from outcome.
I'm working on it.
I had that written on a 3x5 and posted on my desk when I started really coming out with more creative work, and that was something that I got from Wayne. A lot of people say that, of course, but it's so key, because you can't be worrying about how it's going to be received, or what other people are going to think of it, or is this going to be successful, or what is it going to lead to. Like, you just have to open your heart and let it come through, and let it be what it is. Let it evolve. Let yourself evolve. Yeah.
Right. And the people who don't like it, that's their right to not like it.
That's okay.
I just need to detach myself. So I wrote that down. Detach from the outcome, let it go, and it's
somewhere.
Okay.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Or write a song.
For me.
I'm going to write a song about it.
I think you've got a lot of songs brewing right now, so it's exciting that this is such a fertile time of creativity in your world, and I'm following you, and I look forward to what you come out with. So thank you for coming on today, and thank you for sharing your music with all of us. And what's the best way for people to reach you?
So I have a website, sarahdionbrooks.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm most active on Facebook on my Sarah Dion Brooks page, kind of. I need to get there and do some more music, I think, now that I'm saying that. But sarahdionbrooks.com. I am on Facebook, and I'm kind of on Instagram a little bit, but I need to work on those things too. So yeah, sarahdionbrooks.com. And then
all
the
in
Intergarden
divine
Center.
timing, one thing at a time, no pressure, right?
One step forward.
Yep. It's all happening exactly as it's meant to.
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to spend this time with you and your big open heart. I just love what you're putting out into the world.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for all our listeners, thank you for following Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life and telling your friends about it. If you'd like to connect with my guest today, you can reach her at sarahdionbrooks.com to learn more about this podcast, get links to the Facebook community, or to send me a message. Please visit nadiadelacruz.com. I love getting feedback from our incredible audience. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Namaste.